I want to welcome Bret Baier, host of Special Report. Good morning, Bret. Congratulations on a great interview with the Vice President last week. I want to talk about that. But first, congratulations. The first question, how long did it take you to come up with the perfect opening question?
I only had 2 days to get ready when we found out about the interview. So I started to board it out and listening to the Vice President's answers on immigration, I was trying to cut through what were clearly, long talking points that ended up in a bipartisan bill. So I knew pretty much how she was going to answer, and I was just trying to get to the point of the original question.
It's such a neutral question, and it set the tone because you were going to ask fair questions. I am curious, if she had arrived on time, would it have been a significantly different interview in your view?
I think it might have, Hugh. I mean, I think I look back and what did I feel crunched? I probably did. I really wanted to get to a couple of more things about the economy. I really wanted to do a dismount and say, I have this thing called Common Ground where I have Democrats and Republicans on the show. If you win or if you lose, half of the people in America will have voted for the other guy who you say is a threat to democracy and unhinged and dangerous. In that realm, how do you bring the country together? I wanted to dismount with that, but I just didn't have time.
Well, I have been in the situation where by technical difficulties, people have stiffed me, and it happens in broadcast, and you just roll along. You don't get upset. But when it's such an important interview, what was the excuse that they gave you for being late? I think they were late by 15 minutes. Am I right about that?
It was about 17. So we had to start the taping at 5:18 to be able to turn the tape around for the top of the 6 o'clock, just technically. And we told them that. They didn't really give an excuse. They said she was in a holding room in the building. The event she was in had already finished, and she was in a conference room. And the Vice President walked out at 5:17, and we sat at 5:17:30, and all my producers were sweating. And so anyway, we got it on. I was happy for the time that they gave us, but it was tense there at the end to see if we could turn the tape around.
Well, now I want to talk about the technical side of this because I want the audience to understand. When you say turn around, what do you have to do with the tape that you have produced in Pennsylvania in order to air it on Special Report, which airs at 6 p.m. East Coast time?
It's just a physical matter of dumping it from one computer to another, and it just takes time to populate an interview that long. And so we had committed to just doing it as live. In other words, live to tape and turn it around. But to have the computer that in the control room that actually plays the interview, have it finished, digesting it all, and you know how you have the circle wheel that is going and going, it just takes time. So we calculated that in order to do that turnaround with a roughly 25 to 30-minute interview, we would need to start by 5:18.
Now, this is a hypothetical question, but I think she would have been better served if she had said, I want to do an hour. I'm going to sit down with you at 4. Let's do some breaks. Let's make it work for the Fox audience, and you can count me down, and we're going to be professional about this, the way that your Common Ground segments run, the way that major interviews often run, unless they're going to be edited like 60 minutes. Do you agree with my assessment that she would have better served her campaign had she not jammed you?
I think so. It's all hypothetical now. I mean, I think just spacing it out would have created more conversations, and I also think there is that filibuster. Every politician has it, and you would be able to let that go a little bit to be able to come back to conversations that you wanted to. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I rerun it in my head, but I think it is what it is, Hugh, and in the end, that their campaign got, I think, what they wanted, which was, her to be fiery about Donald Trump and have, a moment pushing back about his threat to democracy. And she did that numerous times. I think she mentioned his name 15 or 20 times in the interview.
Yeah, they may have wanted that, but I am of the opinion, I know you won't comment on this, Bret, that she is poorly served by the campaign team that she has. I don't think they're very good at how they're doing this at all, that the emptiness of the campaign is now weighing her down. In fact, I'm looking at the Hill this morning. What if Joe Biden was the better candidate all along? It's a Harry Ullman opinion piece, but over on commentary, Abe Greenwald is really one of the smartest people in the business over at Commentary Magazine, says this is where we are now. And what he means by that is that Democrats are beginning to wonder, ought we to have stuck with Joe Biden, and who in the world had advised Joe Biden to challenge Donald Trump to 2 debates, because that sunk Biden, and he could have run a basement campaign. He could have run a I'm in the middle of a war campaign, and maybe they'd be doing better. I'm not sure, but what if they had gone dark, Bret? We're doing counterfactuals with history now, but what if they had just simply said, no debates, no press conference, I'm not meeting with Trump, he's a threat to democracy, and hid Joe Biden away?
I think they would have gotten some grief, but they would have been the candidate and, would have run ads and surrogates. And I think they would have gotten grief, though, not being able to be public. And obviously, the choice to do that debate super early, on both sides was interesting, because by doing it, the Trump campaign, took out their probably easier opponent, although now there's a lot of, looking back and saying, could Scranton Joe have pulled some Pennsylvania counties better than Vice President Harris? We'll see. I mean, it seems like there's a couple good weeks here, Hugh, for the former president. But the Democrats traditionally have a really good get-out-the-vote effort, and that's what I think is their ace in the hole.
I'm sure you've been following Jon Ralston, because everyone in our business does. And when Jon says that Republicans are winning the early vote in Nevada, and it's palpable, his shock, and it's been confirmed by Decision Desk HQ. They're ahead by 3,000. There is no Clark County firewall in the early vote. He's kind of stunned by that, Bret, and it's just another straw in the wind, and there are lots of straws in the wind. Do you put any particular importance on that?
I do. I put it importance because Ralston has seen the numbers time and time again, and for him to be shocked, that's significant. I mean, could the early, pitch of no tax on tips had, changed some dynamics there? Could, and if it is that, and if Trump goes on to win Nevada, I think, the coattails are large there, and Brown does a lot better and possibly, pulls out that seat. I think you can tell that story in a number of different Senate races that changed the Senate map as well.
Yeah. Last question. I've got a column over at Fox News this morning on the Republican Senate map looking better and better. Last question. In the McDonald's Lollapalooza, I mean, it was an amazing gimmick, stunt, call it what you will, campaign event. Amazing in terms of earned media. Lost in that, though, is a clip of the former president at a Steelers-Jets game that night, where the chant USA, which I've always associated with the 1980 hockey win by USA, it broke out. I think the Steelers crowd's a pretty diverse crowd in Pittsburgh, Bret. Do you think that was significant?
I do, and it didn't really play a lot of places, but as you look at it, it is pretty significant, and the crowd is rising up. I think he's done some really interesting retail politics things, doing the barbershop, talking to those guys as they're getting their haircut. I listen, that stuff on TV is one thing, but when the campaign then clips it out and micro targets it to, who they're trying to get to specifically, I think it becomes very valuable. And there have been a number of those incidents. So I think it's better. Brit Hume said it last night. It's much better physically, emotionally, than closing with Liz Cheney on the other side.
Amen to that. And Bret is very, very rarely wrong.